All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 133rd episode of The Get Down. My name is Cream.
Gary W. here.
What's up, Gar?
You know, getting ready to come back up there. Let's promo that a little bit right off the top.
Yeah, let's do a little. Let's get some promo out of the way first. So first and foremost, this podcast is going to come out on Wednesday, and we have our Beats, Bartenders, and Brushes Get Down Open Decks Party. It's in Hoboken, New Jersey. If you guys that are listening want to come check it out, want to come throw down a set, we would love for you to come check it out. And this particular Open Decks, Gary and I are going to be the featured DJs and maybe throw down sort of a back-to-back-ish set.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
We might be all over the place, but it'll be fun.
Definitely. I mean, I kind of have what I want to do in my head, but that could always change in the last second. And we're going to just play completely different. So I think that works. I think it highlights exactly who you and I are. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Like
Polar opposite DJ styles.
It completely. Like it couldn't be more different.
If John Summit can go back-to-back with Subtronics, you and I can go back-to-back, Aaron.
Oh, man. I really wanted to play like in my old style, but it just doesn't. It's not going to work out. Like bring like an old CDJ. And
Yeah, Gary used to DJ in ABS mode on CDJ 800s, right?
800s or 850s.
And I've never seen any type of wizardry like that before. And I was like, what are you even doing? So basically, in that mode, every time you touch the top of the CDJ, it resets to like your first cue point, right?
Yeah. And it was kind of fun because I got it to the point where I can figure out like, okay, well, I'm done with that cue point. Now I can pick up a new one. You know, you didn't have saved cue points, so you just do them all live on the fly, and it created just a more fun set. You want to talk about really not having any like dead spaces in your mixes. Because you had that with like, you know, echo and like all types of stuff that you could do, and it was fun.
I still to this day have never seen anyone DJ like that besides you. But at the same time, you were the best DJ when you were able to play in that configuration.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to remember, I got those 800s the year they came out, 2001 or 2002.
That was your home setup, basically, right?
Yeah, that was like my first real like well, I had 1200s. I'm sorry, so I had 1200s and a DJM forever. Before that, forever meaning like 3 or 4 years. And then I got my CDJs, and that's kind of how I taught myself on ABS mode. And everybody else was playing on the other mode, and I'm like,
relative
I don't even
mode.
know what that is, man. I'm like, I don't even want to mess with that.
Yeah, because I'd come play with you somewhere at a barbecue or at West 5 or whatever, and I'd be like, I don't even know. How do you do this? How do you DJ in this mode? I literally wouldn't, because I was newer at that point, too. I had no idea what you were even doing.
Because I was coming off of turntables that I didn't use the cue points on the keyboard and things
right?
Like that, right? And actually, no, I'm sorry. When I started my CDJs, what am I talking about? I was DJing at CDs for like 6 years, but computers weren't used for like another 5 years, actually.
Right.
So, yeah, I was using CDs.
I want to, so we're going to come back to this because I think our first topic translates well with what we're talking about here with our home setups and getting comfortable playing on, you know, certain setups. But I do want to promo one other thing before we get started. So Digital Music Pool mashup contest, the fall mashup contest is now live. We'll put the submit link in the show notes, but I believe it's just submit at digitalmusicpool.com. And guys, if you guys are making mashups and edits, submit it. There's cash prizes. They're going to shout you out on their homepage. They're going to shout you out on their email blast, which goes out to tens of thousands of DJs and artists. Every big artist in the world has a DMP account. So there is the chance that your edit that wins this contest can get listened to by, and maybe even played by a bigger artist out there. So submit to the DMP mashup contest. All the Get Down DJs, I fully expect one of you to win. So make sure you get those submissions in. Let's go.
For sure.
Shout to Skizzo, who won the last contest. He's a Jersey guy and super talented. So
I want to say happy birthday to DMP, too. They just celebrated their 10-year.
10-year DMP.
I meant to shout them out on the last podcast, but we had Dario on, and we didn't. I just couldn't squeeze it in. But, yeah, I think last week they celebrated their 10-year, which is a huge accomplishment, man. I mean, that's a competitive field. And it's not easy to keep up with a record pool and do all the right things that are going to keep you relevant. And because, there have been a bunch that have come and gone since. So good job by the boys.
Yeah, huge shout to DMP. Again, there's a link if you want to check out DMP, $9.99 for the first month in the show notes. We love DMP, so we'll always be supporting anything they do and vice versa. So shout to those guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, so let's go back to this first topic here. We had a local DJ. I don't know if he wants us to shout him out, so I won't. But we had a DJ ask a question, and he asked, "How do you practice, and how do you practice in the most efficient way possible?" So I wanted to pose that question to you. I know you and I aren't really doing a whole lot of practicing, so to speak, at this point of our careers. But how did you used to practice, and what are some suggestions for newer DJs to practice in the best way possible?
So I usually would practice when I knew I had a bigger set, something that I was excited about, and I would kind of put together a crate or a CD or whatever it might have been at the time, and I'd put something together, and I would kind of practice in, like, imagining I'm at that set, and these are the mixes I'm going to kind of mess with, and this is the style I'm going to mess with. They might not be those tracks specifically, maybe some of them, but you want to kind of play in that style that you feel like you might need practice in, right? So like today is probably be the first time I practice since probably the pandemic, I guess, probably.
Yeah.
And because I would consider like going live on like Twitch and stuff like that, practicing. I think that's a great way to practice. Go live on Twitch. Like, who cares if you mess up? Who cares if you don't sound the cleanest? But like, because you could always talk to your audience and be like, I'm trying something new out, and like I'm going to do that tomorrow. I fully expect to have a microphone in front of me tomorrow while I'm DJing at the event, because like I'm going to be doing things that I haven't done in years, or I'm just trying out that's new, and like there's going to be absolute train wrecks for sure, but like I think those are the greatest ways to practice. Go in with an open mind, and then right now is one of the greatest times to sit down. You can actually practice and have an audience in front of you. That's amazing. Whereas, like, you're not just staring at the wall. You know what I mean? Like, coming up, we're just like staring at the wall. Like, I used to invite friends over. Like, hey, you want to come and like have a session and hang? Like, my friends weren't even DJs, and they'd come and like they'd hop on and they'd play for 30 minutes, and then I would play, and like we exchange ideas. And I think that's a great way to do it too. You have a lot of different ways that you can go about it, but I think the most exciting way would be to jump on like a Twitch or a platform and actually have an audience while you're practicing. And I'm going to end my comment here with this. I was shocked when I saw Vice jump on his, I don't know if it was a TikTok or a reel, but Vice jumped on and he was practicing his cuts the other day. And I was like, wow, like this guy's actually, he's making all the money in the world, big Vegas DJ, successful. And there he is in his office, practicing his cuts. So guys at that level are still doing it as well. I mean, you have to create time in order to come up with new routines and get comfortable with new ideas.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. I think for me personally, a lot of the practice that I would do or have done recently is more routine practices, right? Like, so if there's a hip hop routine specifically that I want to test out, or a word play, and I need to loop one part of one song and hit play at the exact point of another song, I think that's where my practice would come in for specific transitions.
Yeah.
And it could be any genre. You could do it the same thing with EDM genres. If you have a certain wordplay or a loop or a breakdown that you want to bring in with a different drop, I think that's a great opportunity to kind of fine tune how that's going to sound, and you getting comfortable with doing it, so that when you are in the live situation, you've practiced it 3, 4, 5, 10, 100 times in your room or in your DJ room or whatever. And I think that would be the first thing. As far as going live or recording for TikTok, I think that's another great way to practice, because you have to put, like, even if you're putting together those top 5 lists, right? Because I was doing this for a little while during the pandemic, and it's not easy to just turn everything on and record and hit it first try. Like, you have to practice and figure out how you're going to transition, where you're going to transition, the cue points. So I think that's all really high quality practice that you could then in turn use for nightlife.
Yeah.
And then you brought up the cuts with
Vice.
With Vice. Another way to practice would be if you're trying to learn something specifically, maybe it is scratching or cutting, and maybe you need to go get a course of some sort and literally watch a video, and then you have your decks right in front of you that you could then practice, whatever it is you might be learning. I think that's a really valuable way to practice, especially something that you might not know a lot about,
I mean, the power of YouTube is wild, right? Like I've spoke about this before. I built a bathroom from scratch. Never had done that before in my life, and like tore everything down to the studs. And just okay, well, I don't know how to do this, so YouTube's good for that, right?
Yeah.
And for everything, for anything in life, and especially for DJing and scratching and learning different cuts and different fader tricks. Like YouTube's phenomenal for that stuff.
Yeah, YouTube is incredible. Like even practicing for Ableton, it's another thing. Like, how do I warp? How do I pitch bend? Like, there's, you could search for anything on there, and that's practice too, right? You might not be making or learning something while you're producing for any specific track, but you're just learning a new technique, that you can use, and it's in your tool belt. But I want to shout, Ragoza has a really dope course for cuts and scratches and stuff, and learning how to scratch initially, which I bought, and I kind of ran through some of those lessons that I was trying to improve my skills in. So, and this was more recently. So there's always time to learn something new and practice and get better in an area that you might not be, that proficient in. So whether you're a brand new DJ and you're just learning how to blend two songs, or you're a 10+ year DJ that's trying to learn a new skill, there's always opportunity for high quality practice.
Technology's ever changing, so I mean, if you're one of those people that likes to stay on top of all of the features that whether it's your controller, your CDJs, or your mixer comes with, there's always every year there's something new that you can learn, right?
Yeah, I think also to speak towards the efficiency part of because it's one thing, right? Like, oh, I'm going to turn the decks on in my computer or whatever, my sticks, and get just play some tunes. Like, that's fine too, but that's not dedicating time to practice. I think to be the most efficient possible, you want to say, all right, I'm going to spend 2 hours right now, a block of time, and I'm going to learn these 2 or 3 things, or I'm going to practice this one thing. And you practice it and practice it and practice it until you feel like you've taken a step forward. And then you can move on to the next thing. And maybe that second part of your practice session, maybe that is a routine or a wordplay that you're working on. So the first part can be like a technical aspect or a skill. And then the second part can be a routine or something that you're going to then translate to your live sets.
I think that's great advice, because you can get caught just kind of being stagnant and not really doing anything. Like you're there playing music, but you're not doing anything. You're not accomplishing anything.
Right, you're just playing music.
Right. It's kind of like if you're a basketball player and you just go to the courts and you're just shooting around. You're not really accomplishing anything by doing that, right? Like, so yeah, that's a great piece of advice.
I'm going to throw one other thing that you guys can do as well. If you're playing day sets or a slower set and you're kind of a little checked out and it's not that busy, or it's super early in the day and there's nobody there, a great way for you to get more engaged, record that part of your set and use it as, hey, I'm going to record this set and post it. And you're going to take that set way more seriously. And you want to make sure your blends are clean and your cuts are clean, because this is something that you're thinking about putting out into the world. I would look at that also as a form of practice, because you're not necessarily party rocking a room where you're feeding off someone's energy, but you're using that time to get better and create something that you're going to put out into the world.
Yeah, we've said that in past podcasts, and how to stay interested in slow sets during those like off hours, and that's one of the main ones, right?
Yeah,
it's just really finding a way to engage yourself in what you're doing and not just check out, because people are still there listening to music. Whether it's 10 people or 20 people, there's still people there, right? So you still want to be able to perform. I understand how hard that could be some days, but that is good advice to just. We all forget to record, honestly. Like when I talk to most DJs, like, I forgot to hit the record button. Yeah, I think it's something that I think older DJs probably really need to check in on a little more.
I set alarms on my phone for big sets. So if I know my set time is 11:45, at 11:40, I have an alarm going off my phone saying, "Record your set, idiot." Because as
Yeah.
much as I can think about it in the hotel room or at my house before, it's like once you're there, you sort of forget about it.
Yeah, of course. You're thinking about a million other things at that point. But yeah, I think that's great. I haven't recorded my slower sets in a while, and maybe if I have one this weekend, I'll do that and see how it comes.
So a couple other parts of this question I want to bring up. How do you track your progression over time? So if you're setting aside these blocks of time, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, how do you know if you're getting better?
Record it. I think that's the number one thing. Like, I can remember tapes, like mixed tapes that I made when I was a freshman in high school, and like listen back to them. It's like, wow, like that was sloppy, or there was like 45 seconds of just like drums, like with nothing else happening, like in all this dead space, and like then I listened to like a mixtape from like 2 years later. It's like, wow, I really improved in this way. Like, your ear gets trained to know what sounds better.
Right.
So what happens is it's hard to gauge what it sounds like when you're doing it live. When you go and listen to it back and you cringe, you know that it wasn't that great, and there's room for improvement, right? And then it's like, okay, well, I can hear this is what I did bad. Right? I need to clean this part of the mix up, or this part of the scratch needs improvement. And then you can go back and hone in on that little piece of it.
Right, and then spend your next practice session fixing that.
Right. It's exactly like in sports why everybody has an iPad on the sideline these days, right? You want to see it. You want to be able to see it immediately and hear it immediately, and then you can fix it, as fast as possible in order to get better quickly and efficiently.
No, that's great. So I want to reiterate the fact that, guys, if you have more questions, like this is from a listener, so we want to answer more questions that you guys submit. So if you have a question, feel free to DM us. If you have our numbers, shoot us a text or email, and send us some more questions, because I think it's important to hit some of these that maybe Gary and I don't think about. And this is not something we've ever talked about, 133 episodes in, I don't think.
We focus so much on the business aspect of DJing that I feel like the technical aspect of DJing sometimes gets lost in the shuffle on this podcast. And because that's where our mind is more in the business section of this, and it's so kind of far removed from the technical aspect of DJing, where I like these questions because these are things that I haven't thought about in a long time.
Yeah.
And probably things that you and I can use moving forward from a technical side.
Yeah, for sure.
For our for our talent side. So,
all right. So
great question.
Great question. Thank you. Let's move on to the next topic here. And, we have talked a lot about venues having identities or lack of identities. But I think I want to talk a little bit about why it's really important for us as DJs to have actual identities. And we could talk about it both from a booker standpoint, but also from the DJ side of things, and how it's helped you and I having an identity in trying to get booked and growing our names out here.
There's a lot of different ways to look at this, because as you're posing the question, I'm thinking about like, okay, when you're establishing an identity, you kind of have to know what your end goal is. I think having like your goal, knowing your goals in your mind and having them written out, and what's the long-term goal, and like how can I establish my identity as a DJ right now in order to get to those goals. I feel like if you don't have those end goals, it's hard to understand where you're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was never my end goal to be like the biggest DJ in the world, right? Like, it was just never was. So like, I really loved to be an open format DJ. So it was really important for me to be good at a lot of different genres. Right. And I think if somebody sat me down 10 years ago, actually more than that now, 15 years ago, and was like, well, where do you want to be at as a DJ? And it's like, well, I want to play a lot of hip hop and I want to play a lot of house. Right. And like, that's where I was comfortable 15, 20 years ago. And I think that sometimes you talk to some DJs and they're just not sure what the end goal is. They're interested in maybe many different things, or they're interested in just one specific thing. And it kind of, it can stunt you from an early DJ standpoint. If you're like, if you only want to do trap music and you want to still make money weekly, like, you have to be better at not just trap music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's okay. We bring this up, and I think it's easy for you and I, who are more veterans here, to know what our identities are. But I think as young DJs, maybe you don't know what that is, and that's okay. But I think that you need to figure it out sooner than later, right? And once you figure it out, you can then set those goals like you're talking about and be more focused on how to get to those goals. And having an identity and understanding where you want to get to is the first step in all of that.
Yeah.
And then once you understand that, you can start picking and choosing to do or not do certain things based on whether it fits into that idea, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier said than done, And I'm a great example of this, right? Like, I've sort of had a similar goal over the years. It's changed slightly, but I think certain things have gotten in the way of some of those goals. And that's okay, right? Things change, goals change, businesses change, right?
Yeah.
What interests us changes. It's okay to change what that identity is. But it's important when someone looks at your Instagram or listens to a mix or, checks out your EPK, they understand who you are. Hey, this is a club DJ, right? His pictures are all club style, pictures in the club, pictures of him doing things that are club DJ related.
Yeah.
Where, if you're doing a private event, that's going to be completely different. And everything that goes into that needs to be completely different. And bookers and people are going to go look at this, and they need to have a clear understanding of who is this person at a glance. Because if they don't understand you at a glance, they're probably not going to dig deeper into, let me go listen to his music or her music, and let me go download their mix, and let me go check out their Instagram. Like,
it could be a completely wrong booking. And then it puts that DJ in a situation that's not good. It puts the booker in a situation that's not good because maybe that person's not comfortable with the style that is needed for that venue. I mean, listen, it just happened to one of our guys down in DC. And I was down there with him, and like, he wasn't the DJ for that room.
Right.
But he made it work as a professional, right? Did a good job. But like, I don't know, like, it was like, what the hell's the booker thinking? And I don't think that had anything to do with it wasn't the DJ's fault. His identity's cut and dry in front of you. You go visit his socials and things like that. Like, we know who he is.
Yeah.
Like, that's the booker not doing his due diligence, though. But like, it is important because you really don't want to get put in those situations over and over again where you have to walk into a room and you're like, well, I'm not comfortable with this. Because it's off-putting. Like, it's extremely off-putting. I was there. And
it's uncomfortable is what it is.
And, it was like you walk in and it's like, well, I don't know if this guy's going to be it, and it's super uncomfortable and nobody wants to get put in that situation.
Yeah. From our perspective, because, this comes up also because we're booking DJs, right? So when we're talking about, is this person a fit for our venue, sometimes it's cut and dry. Like, oh, this guy's perfect for there. I know exactly he's going to go in and crush it. That's his style or her style. Whereas sometimes, like, I'm not really sure what this person is or what this person wants to be. So where do we put them, And you don't want to be in that situation for too long. Like I said, it's okay if you're trying to figure out what you want to be. That's okay. But you need to figure out relatively quickly what that is so that you can start pursuing those things. And as a booker, we can put you in the best situation to be successful.
Can we talk about having like an identity also as like your image, like what you're putting out there in the world? Like, if I dressed like I was a techno DJ, right? Like, but I was a hip hop, but I played all hip hop all the time. Like, it just doesn't match, right? Like your image that you portray needs to kind of be in line with the type of DJ you are, in my opinion. I mean, I know that that's not across the board, and that's not always. It's judging a book by its cover 1,000%.
Yeah, but many times bookers are stereotyping all day, right?
1,000%.
Because they don't always have all of the information that they need to put someone in the right place or to book someone or not book someone.
Right. So, like, think about it. We're stereotyping all day, too. We look around a room and you pick out, like, different different groups, and you're like, well, I think this group's going to like this music. And,
right.
like, you try it out. So, like, it's just the nature of the industry. Like, you kind of have to dress the part.
Right.
You know, if you don't dress the part, then like you're putting out confusion into the
Mikey
world.
talks
and you don't
about it
want
all the
that.
time.
Yeah, he does actually.
Because that was a big part of his image, right? Like he portrayed himself as this like high fashion,
Yeah.
you know, down with the times, wearing like the most the
Like
Rudes
like
and the
hype
Fear of
beast
Gods
guy.
and all the
Yeah.
brands that are popular at the moment, you know, like
Yeah.
he's always been into that since I met him when we were a long time ago, you know?
Right,
But that's part of his brand, and that plays into the style of big artist EDM act that he is and he wants to be, you know?
I think it's something that might get overlooked more often than not, especially in the local scene. Because honestly, like in the local scene, you're probably being judged more by what your look is before they even look into anything else. Like if somebody looks a certain way and they don't look like they fit my venue, I'm not even going to listen to the mix.
Right.
Like that DJ doesn't look like how I want the aesthetic of my venue to be. I'm not going to book them.
Right.
You know, so it's important to have an established look that matches what you want to do.
Right, and not only an established like a look, but just looking like a professional, like an artist, like you belong, you know? Like you don't want to be wearing like the joggers and the sweats and a t-shirt to like a high leverage gig. Like you just look like a bum. You don't look like a professional. Whereas you hire someone like a Cheesy and he walks in the room and you're like, this guy looks like a superstar kind of thing. And then he gets up there and he brings the energy to match. And it's like, well, I'm paying this DJ, but he's bringing something that most other DJs don't bring. So maybe he could charge more, you know, like,
yeah.
So it's important to think about all of these different aspects. And when we're younger and we don't think about these things as much, you're like, oh, I'm going to show up and play great music. And yeah, that's part of it. But all this other stuff in your image is also a part of it.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking about Mikey, and one of our guys walked into the pool party in Miami and he just absolutely roasted him for what he was wearing. And I was just like dying. But like, he was like, you don't look like you belong here. You don't look like an artist. Like you don't look like a DJ/producer at all.
Yeah.
It's like something that really needs to be thought about. And only one of the main reasons why I brought that up is because when we book like a higher end room, we think about image too. We think about not image first, but we think about image as well as style of music.
Right. Like if you have an identity and you have a really strong image, right? You have a good social, like those are all things that are going to go into the booking. Obviously, you have to be able to play the music, right? But if you have those other things, you're way more likely to get booked than the person that doesn't have those things. And it's way easier for Gary and I to try and sell you to a venue if you have those other things. Say, hey, look, here's what they're doing on socials. Here's their professional photos and videos that look amazing. Here's, the places they've played in their EPK. Like, it's way easier to sell that than, oh, here's the guy that is wearing a T-shirt and joggers and has 500 followers on social and doesn't post. And
it sets you up for a more successful night and a more successful relationship with that venue moving forward, because you're going to get a little more slack because you're looked at as a professional. You get like a ton more slack. You'll get away, like, okay, you can have a messy transition or play a song that didn't really hit all that well. Instead of them rushing over and like being worried about it, they're going to be like, oh, well, this person's, they know what they're doing. They're a pro.
Yeah.
You have to present that way to make the client feel comfortable.
Do you think in 2023, going on 2024, that the image and perception of the market is more important than the DJ skills?
Yeah, 100%.
Like not even close, right?
Yeah.
And it pains me to say that, but it's the truth at this point.
I sent you a video that it's a TikTok DJ. Now, listen, I don't know how good she is, but she plays a lot of huge shows. 1.1 million followers, but I think that was all before the DJ thing. I think she's a TikTok/Instagram person turns DJ, and like the DJ that she kicked off the set was saying that exact thing, was saying that I hate the way this industry is going. It's becoming all image and less about your actual talent and like, your musical knowledge and performance.
Yeah, it's
very interesting.
It's definitely changed a lot. I mean, the image side of it has always been important, but I think now more than ever, it's almost surpassed the DJ skill side of things. Now, you have to be at least competent enough to play the right music and mix it together. But I went down this talent buyer road, right? The people who are selling tickets are not the super talented DJ producers.
No.
The people who are selling tickets are the TikTok artists that go big on there, or ex Instagram models that are now DJs, or that's what's selling tickets. And if you're an owner of an establishment and you're trying, and this is your business, they're looking to book more of these ticket sellers because why would they not?
It's what sells.
That's what sells. So you're either the super high-end John Summit, Dom Dalla, best of the best artist, or you're the TikTok superstar that everybody knows because they're in everyone's feeds and they're popular because of that. Everyone else that's in the middle is kind of getting lost right now.
Where people are getting butthurt about this is that they're just not used to it, right? Like this is what it is. Like the younger generation, this is how they're consuming music. This is how they're consuming entertainment. So like, you either have to be good with it or get out of the industry.
It's not just our industry, guys. Go look at all the other industries. Look at sports. Look at boxing. What are the biggest boxing fights that have been on TV? It's not Floyd Mayweather, guys. It's Jake Paul. Like, right. For real.
Yeah.
Like, is Jake Paul the best boxer? No. There's thousands of better boxers than Jake Paul out in the world right now.
He's highly competent, but
right, like he's good. I'm not getting into whether he's a good boxer or not.
Right,
like, But the point is, like, it's not just the music industry that this is happening in. It's happening across a lot of different industries.
Yeah, I mean, it's reminiscent of how reality television shaped what television looked like years ago, right? It's kind of reminiscent of that. Like we're seeing social media shape industries, and it's shaping ours. And the guys that have been around for a long time don't like it. And listen, I texted you. I'm like, I hate it. Like I hate that people are standing there staring at me or staring at the DJ. Everybody's got their phones out, but like, it's what's selling. It's what everybody's into. It might not be what I'm into, so I don't have to go to a show, right? And I don't have to DJ the places that people stare at you at and don't like really engage and dance. Like, and I choose not to, and I'll never put myself in that situation, right? But I'm not going to go on social media and blast these people because this is what the industry is, and it's adapt or die. And whether you want to do it, that's fine. That's up to you. But don't bitch about it. To go back to that video, in case anybody looks it up about that Instagram model kicking off the DJ, she came in and shut his music off during a build on his last track.
You sent me the video. I'm like, what is this?
It's like a hard tech DJ. She's like become like a tech DJ, a hard tech DJ.
Yeah.
And this guy, I guess he's been around the block. I think it was in Germany or Amsterdam, something like that. And he's been around for a long time. Not like a huge name, because I went and looked at like his videos, and he's like 6,000
but just like
on his reels.
A pro working the circuit.
Right, exactly. And what had happened was she was late, so he extended his set and played extra time so she could get there. When she got there, she comes onto the stage, doesn't say hi, doesn't even like recognize him. His final song's in a build, and she pulls his USB stick. And then when he complained, and now there's dead silence. If you go watch the video, there's just silence in this nightclub. And it goes on, like the silence goes on for a long while.
That's
he's
crazy.
Like yelling at her, and she like just shoos him off. And then they had security pull the guy off the stage. It was
That's
like wild.
wild.
It's like he wasn't trying to like hit her or anything like that, but like, and then he went on this rant, like, I hate where this industry's going. She's just an Instagram model or whatever, TikToker, and not to say that she's not talented. I don't know, but like, there's apparently a cancel whatever her name is out there on in the tech world.
Yeah, things go in waves, right? And maybe right now we're in this influencer wave of that's what's selling tickets. But just like the styles of music that change, I think what's popular and who gets booked changes also, Yeah. And I think the people who are super talented and put in the work and have the skills, you can still win. You can still get bookings. You can still be a really big artist. But you have to play the game. You can't say, fuck this, like, fuck social media, No, that's just not adapting, like you said.
Right.
And you have to know how to play the game, guys. Like this, getting booked is a game. Like you got to play the game. And if you have to have a social presence right now to be able to get booked, then that's what you have to do, whether you like it or not. Like, I don't want to be on social all day, but I know that if I'm not, I'm going to stop getting booked. So
Yeah.
I do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get booked, you have to do the things that the market is telling you that you have to do. And right now, you have to have a social presence. If you want to get booked, figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I you hate to shit on like the whole social media thing, or I hate to see people shit on the whole social media thing, because there are plenty of DJs, producers out there that they're DJs and producers first, but then they become this social media personality because they have a big character, they have a big personality, and they're just good at it.
Yeah, there's so many DJs that have upped their level because they're super talented, but also have that social aspect.
Right, so you hate to paint this with a broad brush because there are guys that are true DJs and true producers that are very good at social media, So I don't like when people pigeonhole it in a way where it's saying that everybody that is big on social media doesn't deserve the spotlight, because they do, because they're. I think it's even harder to do that. It's even harder to be a very good DJ and very good producer and also be very good at social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a very difficult task. It's a tall task that not everybody's into, and it's a lot of work. Social media on its own is its own job. Forget having to then brush up on your DJ skills and be, producing several tracks a week or whatever it might be. That's a lot. It's a lot to ask.
Being an entrepreneur and running your own business is I think it's way harder now than it's been in the past. Now, there's the flip side to that where it's like, oh, well, we have these tools that can blow your business up really quickly, which is exciting and something that people previously never had, right? It was always a slow burn.
Yeah.
And now there's opportunity where like you can blow pretty quickly if you have one hit and it goes on, trends on TikTok, or you create this one product and a famous person promotes it on a video or something like it. So there's two sides to it for sure. It's just
like everything else.
It's just where we are right now. And we have to adapt and figure out how to be successful right now, not where you want it to be or where it used to be. It's how can I be successful right now and in the future? And that's how you have to think about it.
Yeah. Agreed.
We went all over the place, but I think that was a really good conversation. Like, it was kind of a bunch of different things that you and I have talked about offline that we kind of brought here that have just sort of not been bothering us, but just stuff that's been popping up in our everyday business,
Yeah, it's you know what? When I think about a lot of this stuff, I always have to check myself. Is like, don't become the old man in the room, right?
I tell myself that
all
every
the
day.
time. Like, sure, like, was it amazing when like you couldn't see the DJ and like he was tucked into the thing and literally everybody was there for the party and for the music and to dance, and the place might have had a show or two and that was just a bonus. Like I remember like Jonathan Peters with Sound Factory, like you couldn't see him. He was like in a little room and there was a gooseneck light like coming from his mixer, and that's all you could see is like a shadow of his face. The place Love in New York City that I played a couple of times, that booth was so big, and then the booth was also very high. Like, you could, like, catch, like, the eyes of the DJ, and, like, that was it. I just there's plenty of places, like, there's a place still here in Orlando that you can't see the DJ. It's just things have changed in such a dramatic way. That's why it becomes very hard for people to understand that you need to adapt to these things.
Right. I don't think the DJ was ever like the superstar though. Whereas now DJs are superstars and rock stars, and I don't know if that was ever necessarily the case. If it was a lot less people, you know what I mean? It was a lot less frequent that you were seeing that.
It was a niche part of the community. Like I was like in my high school, I'm thinking about, I was maybe one of three people that like went clubbing on the weekend. And, like, went to go see DJs.
Right.
Like, I graduated with, like, 150 people. Probably in my high school, one of, like, 10.
Right.
Like, so I have, like, 500 people. 10 people went to go see a DJ. So it was, like, so minute. Not many people really knew about DJ culture. If you were into hip-hop, maybe a little bit more, but not much.
Right.
it wasn't as prevalent as it became after like Tiesto DJ'd the Greek Olympic, the Olympics in Greece in '04. You know, that was the first. That put DJing on a map, and I remember everybody made fun of it. Like, why they got this guy DJing the opening ceremonies of the Olympics? Who the hell is this guy? And from there, it kind of snowballed, and then like DJ AM was dating Nicole Richie. Then Avicii came out.
Yeah.
And like that was the progression of mainstream DJs, right?
I think more so, it was more of people wanted to go to the places that created this really cool vibe and experience, and the music was part of that. It wasn't the focal point, right? People weren't paying tickets to go to Limelight in New York for one particular DJ.
They were. They were, but that's what I'm saying. It was such a very, very small group of people that knew who Danny Tenaglia was. And Junior was playing, oh my God, I almost called it Avalon, Limelight. And, you know, Junior had another party that he would do, and Madonna would show up all the time. But everybody was there for Junior. You know what I mean?
But also, I think, like, people were going there because it was a fun time. And then you get to know who the DJs are because you're there all the time type of thing. And then you start going because, like, Junior was there or whoever was there.
Right.
And even later on with Pasha, it was sort of the same thing, right? Like sometimes you buy a ticket to go see a DJ, but sometimes you're like, I just know Pasha's fun. It's a good vibe in there. They're like,
yes,
they create this really cool environment. Maybe I don't know the DJ, but I'm going to go there because I like going there type of thing.
Right. That's more like the casual clubber for sure. You'd have the casual clubber all the time. Now, like I feel like, but everybody knows who the DJ is, no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, you're not casually going out and Black Coffee's playing at Mirage or whatever, which, dude, that show, by the way, the Black Coffee show at MSG looked ridiculous. I'm so jealous of everybody who went.
It did. It looked like a good time. Think about that. Like Black Coffee selling out the Garden. Crazy.
Insane. Like, the godfather of Afro House and selling out the Garden is a wild thing to me, where like, I would have never thought that would have been on the map even 4 years ago. Like, even on, like, is that even feasible,
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I mean, the whole culture's come a long, long way, selling out stadiums and just insane. I love where it has gone, and I won't go out to the shows really anymore. Like, I would have probably went to, like, the Black Coffee MSG thing, but, like, I'm just not into the... I don't know, standing there and staring at the DJ. It's just not... Like, I'll go to a Louis show. Like, I'll go to a Louis Vega show all day long. Because people are there. It's a different vibe. It's a different experience.
I was at Breakaway 2 weeks ago in North Carolina when I went down to Charlotte to hang with Angelo the Kid. And, Olive Oil guys were down there. Hova was down there. That was the first festival I've been to in a while. I mean, granted, we were in VIP and like kind of set up differently than how I used to go to shows.
Your
but
spot looked pretty nice.
Yeah, we had Eric from the owner of both the trios in Charleston and Charlotte, they had a partnership with Breakaway where they were having some of the artists who were playing the Breakaway Festival come and play Trio Charlotte. So, there was the Trio flyers on the big screen when we walked in. Like, it was a really cool partnership that they created. So we had a whole cool section. A lot of the staff from Charlotte and from Charleston was working the event, which was really cool too. Some of the opener DJs were lucky enough to play, like, they did a silent disco side stage. So I got introduced to some of the guys who were playing as openers that Angelo was kind of mentoring, which was awesome. So it was a cool experience. I was only there for a little bit because really the whole point of going down there was to hang with ATK and hang out with Eric and kind of see the new venue. But yeah, man, it was cool. It was definitely
a Cream and Gary W track played,
bro. Any DJ that knows me, like, I'll come hang out with you and you guys might play a Cream edit, and I don't even pay attention because I don't remember half the shit I make. But for whatever reason, we're at Breakaway and it was in between Blondish and Cascade. They just had a mix playing, and I was like, my ears perked up, and I'm like, I tapped Merc from Olive Oil. I'm like, I think it's Cream and Gary edit. I'm not positive, but hold on, let me. And I recorded a video. I'm like, it is shit. It's like not one that I would have liked them to be playing. It was like our Miley Cyrus like Flowers Tech House edit or something. But
I played that one time.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. Like, of all the edits that are out there in the world, that was the one that they were playing on whatever mix, but whatever.
Really funny. Oh,
That's
man.
funny. I guess I want to also, we've been talking about like having this identity and kind of like hospitality and what's working. I want to point out two incredible conversations and things that I witnessed also in the last couple weeks. And the first was from a manager slash promoter of a venue. We talk about our homie Slav all the time. He's a longtime New Jersey promoter, a lot of the nightclubs here, Jersey Shore. But I was playing at a venue where he works, and it was a slower end of the night. And there was this bachelor party that came in, and they were like talking to me, requesting songs. They were tipping me to play songs, which I was like, dude, you guys don't even need to tip me. There's not a lot of people here. I'll play whatever you want. Like, I don't really care. And I told Slav, like, yo, this bachelor party's here. They're tipping me and stuff. Immediately goes in the back, gets them shots, brings out sparklers, does this whole presentation for them with the waitresses. And like, he didn't need to do that, right? But I thought in a moment where it wasn't prime time in the night, it wasn't peak hour, it was an off hour, we were almost closed, that he still felt like it was so important to do this presentation, show some love to this bachelor party that was still hanging out and having a great time. And we need more of that. And I want to highlight when I come across these things or see these things, because it's so important.
Creating repeat guests is so easy in our industry. It's just doing that little extra. You know, like, I know, like, when we'll go somewhere and if we know the owner or a manager or something, they bring out like a bottle of champagne. Like, love that gesture. It's amazing. And it's not costing the house a ton of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's always just like, oh, that's like a little starter. It's a really nice gesture. And it's like always, you never forget about that.
Right.
And it'll make you more inclined to come back. You know?
Right.
My dad's a sucker for that stuff. Like, buy my dad an espresso at the end of the night, at the end of his dinner.
I want to be sold, all right? I'm okay being sold. Treat me like the custom. Like, I want to be sold. Like, you can earn my business. Earn my business.
Right. Like, so like those girls, they're spending their money already. Right. They don't.
It was dudes, Harry. It was guys. It wasn't even girls. It was a bachelor party.
Oh, it wasn't a bachelorette. In my head this entire time, if there was a bachelorette party.
Bachelor party.
Oh, dude, like, those guys are spending money. Like, you don't have to do any of that.
Right. Like, they're hanging out no matter what. They didn't need that. But you know what? That little round and that little gesture, I guarantee you, those guys, whether they come back as a group or individually with friends, will be back to that venue. 1,000%. And that's where we are lacking in hospitality. And I set this up poorly because Eric at Trio is the best at this. He's the absolute best.
He is.
I go to Charlotte. He won't let me pay for anything. He's taking me to lunch. We have bottles at Breakaway. He sets me up at the venue. Like, it's like, dude, let me pay for something. Like,
right.
He's like, no, you're my guest, and you work with us, and that's it. Shut up. Have fun. Like,
wild.
But yeah, like, Slav is another one who's really great at that, and I just wanted to point it out. And then a final one from the DJ side that I wanted to bring up because it motivated me. It gave me goosebumps when I was on the phone with RM, my boy from Boston, my favorite agency artist, was telling me about a booking that he got in Reno, Nevada at a casino. And he's doing his homework. He's like, well, I see a lot of videos of people on turntables. He's like, that's how I started playing, but I don't really play on turntables anymore because none of the venues have them. So he's like, I sold my turntables, whatever. He's like, I bought turntables in phase so I can practice so that when I go to Reno, they're getting the best version of me. Think about that. Someone that's getting paid a lot of money to get flown out there and get a hotel and play this high-level West Coast show still thinks that it's important to buy the equipment. Like, they're not going to give him whatever equipment that he wants anyway.
Right.
But having the mind state of, I have to be the best version of me no matter what. Like, I just thought that was incredible, and I had to point it out.
Not everybody is as committed to their craft as that, right? And that's okay, but don't expect to get that booking out in Reno or in Vegas or...
That's why he's signed to my favorite agency. That's why he's playing shows for a lot of money on the West Coast and in other places.
Exactly.
Guys, that's what it takes. It doesn't matter if you're brand new or if you're RM, who's playing all the shows that you want to play.
But we all have to understand that we can talk about Kobe being in the gym at 5 a.m. and doing what it takes to be one of the greatest players of all time. We can talk about RM buying equipment and stuff like that, but not everybody's built the same, right?
Right.
And like, you can't force it. You could try to. You could definitely try to, but not everybody's built the same. So don't feel bad about yourself if you don't have that drive or that passion for DJing, but you do like to go out and DJ and be but just understand
you're going to be the local bar DJ.
That's what I'm saying. Don't think that you're going to be this big act if you don't have that kind of drive and passion in your craft, right?
Yeah.
You can't trick yourself into having passion for something, But
we should have brought him on to
it.
talk about practice, because he practices more than anybody else I know. Every time I go up there, I usually stay at his condo, and he has multiple setups set up. And before every set, he's like, "Oh, let me just get the hands warmed up, like before my Friday night gig." And he'll go practice a routine that he's been testing out, or an edit that he made for a routine, and like, that's what it takes.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I look at like my first hour as I'm going to warm up in my first hour here. He's actually doing real practice before he goes out there, which is what you should do, because honestly, it does take you a little while to kind of get it going again,
Especially if you're playing that open format technical set,
Yeah, he's extremely technical.
Yeah.
So you have to stay sharp with that stuff. And I think that's where that Vice video comes in. Like, he's a technical DJ, so like, you kind of have to stay sharp. It's not the easiest way to do. I know I bust your balls all the time. Like, oh, house DJing's easy. But being that kind of DJ, it's hard because you have to be very precise.
No, I totally agree. All right, Garrett, I know we had some other stuff we were going to talk about. I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I think we've covered it a lot here.
I want to also, before we go, just thank everybody for all the positive feedback on last episode with Dario Valley. I know it was something a little different, and we were really interested to see what you guys thought. And many of you were like, "This was my favorite episode. I'm going to listen to it a second time." Like, we got so much really high quality feedback on it. So we greatly appreciate that, guys. And again, I hope what we talked about helped you guys. At least you took one little thing away from it. So
got some other ideas in the pipeline, similarly, not financial, but similar on that back end type of stuff in the DJ industry.
Yeah. So excited to keep recording some new ideas and topics and things that we think are going to help you guys. So,
yep.
All right, guys. We appreciate you listening. Again, this Wednesday, if you're local, tri-state New York City, get down Open Decks, Mills Tavern, Hoboken, New Jersey. It starts at 7 p.m. So if you want to come lay down a set, come check us out. But thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Later, guys.
Peace.